All right. Well, welcome and good morning, Barb. Thanks for meeting with me. I'm so excited to get to. And the other thing, I haven't not only just talked to you, but I haven't seen you for like a year now.
I know
Every,
it's been a long time. It's been a long. I
that's
haven't seen
crazy.
any of my sports PT buddies and girlfriends in a really long time, and it feels crappy. But oh
Oh, it
well.
does. Yes, and you don't realize how much you miss everybody until I mean, I know I miss everybody, but then I see like you on this video, and I'm actually talking to you, and then it really hits me like how bad it's been that you try to put it behind you, I think, but then when you're talking to someone, it's like, oh wow, I haven't seen you forever.
Or even those interactions that are brief but in fleeting but really important to just like reconnect with
Yeah.
people.
Oh
I just
yeah.
miss that. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
wow, it's been a long, long time. Yeah,
It's gonna. I think hopefully it'll just make it that much better when we all get back together.
I think
That's the way I'm
so.
gonna look at it. I'm gonna keep a positive spin to it. So just quickly before we get too deep into this, all this leadership things, tell me why did you start in physical therapy and why did you decide to choose like sports/orthopedic physical therapy for your career?
Yeah, kind of a funny story actually. So in high school, I was an athlete, probably not a very good one, but I was the person that always rode along in the ambulance when people got hurt. I was just always interested, right? So then I thought, well, maybe I'll do medicine, start out pre-med. Nah, it didn't really fit. And then my brother was spinal cord injured. And so I learned what physical therapists do sort of across the spectrum of physical therapy. And actually, I came out of PT school thinking I wanted to be a neurotherapist and do
Uh-huh.
spinal cord injury. But I took my first job and I split my time between inpatient and outpatient. And then that whole bug of sports and musculoskeletal just really got reignited. So I never made the transfer over to the
Neuro.
neuro team that I was going to do, and I never did. So then I became an athletic trainer, and while I was a physical therapist, and that just cemented this whole sports musculoskeletal, active individual kind of physical therapy focus for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what level? I didn't know you had a brother that had a spinal cord
Yeah,
injury. What level
yeah.
of injury did he have? And
Yep, he was 17 years old, water skiing accident, tragic actually, but C5, C6. And so he's a quadriplegic, has been since he was 17, and but does really well, Rob. I mean, he's a social worker. He supports himself. He has 3 biologic children, which is kind of a
ah,
miracle. Yeah.
yeah,
So, but
well,
I
good.
always thought that
Yeah.
that was where my talent lay, because I did a lot with him when I was in PT school and thought that that was part of what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Wow. So that's incredible. I mean, just so think about that. If that wouldn't have, as bad as that is for him, but it sounds like he turned it all around. Okay. If that wouldn't have happened to him, maybe you wouldn't even be in your, career that you're in now. Who knows what the hell
I
you would have
might
done.
not. And I'll tell you, those physical therapists it was at Cleveland Metro Highland View. They impacted me so much about how they cared for people and families, as well as their educational capabilities. It was like they taught our family, we had to bring them home like the first weekend, like the
Yeah.
home visit. And all 4 of us had a role. So my sister, myself, my mom, and my dad. And those therapists were powerful in my attempt to become the therapist that I am now, because I'm like, they empowered us to get that, to get him home and to give him some hope, in terms of being
Yeah.
able to, so yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Incredible. That's incredible. Yeah. See, so I'm already learning stuff. I mean, I had
Yeah,
no
see?
idea. This is the same way when I was interviewing Gordon. There was just stuff that he told me that I didn't even know or I'd never even
Mhm,
heard of. So it's
mhm.
just unbelievable for me to talk to you all about these things. So this is great. So tell me name me a person who has had probably the most impact in your career as a physical therapist. So like maybe your greatest role model, and maybe it's several. I mean, it could be several, I guess, if you don't have just one. But
Yeah,
tell me someone who has been a mentor or a role model to you and how they've impacted your life.
okay. Um, there are 2 people that come to mind, so I'll go with 1 and 2 real quick. The first is Barb Sanders. So Barb Sanders pulled me aside in a sports business meeting many, many moons ago and said, how do you want to get involved? And that developed into a very long friendship, including her being a mentor to me during my doctoral work.
Mhm.
So I view her as a very strong academic leader, a very strong leader as a woman and a friend, just a really unbelievably quality person. So actually, I went and spent a whole week in Texas during my doctoral work. And I stayed separately because I didn't want to bug she and her husband, but,
Yeah.
and I went to work with her every day and I watched her in her role, and it was in a class that I was taking. But anyways, bottom line, that impacted not only my personal view of leadership, but my view of what an academic leader looks like, as
Mhm.
well as a leader in a career or in a profession. So Barb has been formative, and now we kind of travel together and we're in different groups together and we do
Uh-huh.
things together. I always run things up her flagpole because I perceive her as a very knowledgeable, but with a long career. And so she just has been like unbelievably available, and also just really open and really, really helpful along the way from when I was very
She
young
would,
to
yeah,
recently.
she's incredible. She would do, I think she would do anything for you. I mean, if she knows you and likes you, I think she would do anything at all
Yeah,
for you. I mean, just at the drop,
yeah,
she would drop everything to do anything for you. And have you met her husband?
yeah. I've met Mike quite a few times. Yep.
Yeah, I only met him once. I was at a meeting. We were at a meeting in Austin. I think it was me, her, Terry Malone, maybe
Mhm.
Davey. I don't know, but we all went. We went. She had wanted to know if we wanted to go out to eat, so we went out to eat with her and her husband. He's just an unbelievable guy. I mean, just
Well,
the nicest, friendliest, funniest guy.
is, and they're both so knowledgeable in their own fields, and
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
both very highly educated, and it's really they're kind of a neat
Like
pair.
strength and conditioning. Any strength and conditioning or
Yeah,
coaching
yeah.
like
And
that?
coaching, yep, has a long history as a coach. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Unbelievable. And he's the guy that you meet one night and you feel like you're his best friend for
Mhm.
life. I'm sure he
Yeah.
wouldn't even remember who the hell I was, but I clearly remember him because he was just so nice and polite and
Yeah, he's
funny.
he's really a neat guy too.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great people. Okay, so who's number two?
Well, this is a little cliche, but Mike Boyd.
Yeah.
So Mike befriended me back when I was what I call a little PT from Michigan, and really wasn't super invested in the section as well. As soon as I got to know Barb, I kind of got to know Mike and Tab and Skip and that whole crew. But Mike's been very formative in my career, both personally and professionally. Personally, sometimes just to goad me or to prod me with things, to you need to do this, or what are you thinking, like
Yeah,
really
yeah,
blanket, like and why are you not doing this, it's like kind of almost berating you sometimes, but lovingly, I guess.
yeah.
We function a lot like brother and sister sometimes, like we both yell at each other, we scream at each other, it's like whatever. But anyway, I respect Mike greatly. His trajectory career wise, both clinically, academically, publishing wise, that kind of stuff. I mean, he's been a really, really big mentor to me as well. And I like to think that sometimes that relationship is mutual, because there are things that I do well that he doesn't, and vice
Yep.
versa.
I'm
And
sure
so,
there are. Yeah.
yeah, and so we've been really, sort of, I don't want to say codependent because that's too strong, but functioning very much. So we were on the board of the academy/section together for quite some
Uh-huh.
time, and that was a very formative time in my leadership development as well. And then also in terms of the International Journal of Sports Physical Therapy, just kind of really pulling me along and taking that job as editor in chief, and then saying, but this is what I need you to do. And then, basically kind of pulling me along up through the ranks of IJSPT, which has been a real interesting, but sleep loss journey, lots of other things that go with it, editing in my sleep. Sometimes I'm like, oh, there's
Yeah,
an extra period.
yeah.
Oh, that's wrong tense. It's like editing in my sleep.
Yeah. Well, you're a natural at that, though. You do such a good job at
Thank you.
editing, and the way you handle everything is just unbelievable. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thanks. I do.
And you just reminded me of something to ask something because you mentioned that you were on the executive committee, and I think when you were on the executive committee was when you beat my ass in a election for what was it second? What was it? Second?
Secretary. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
you beat me
secretary
for
too.
secretary. We were running against each other, and you won. So that you helped me remind myself of a failure there. So my question to you is, what type of things? Because a lot of people, especially younger therapists, I think,
Mhm.
and even students, think that so Barb is known for all of this stuff. She's written books and chapters, and she's the editor of the journal. She's like this. Everything she's done has been fantastic and great. But as you know, that's not true. There's all kinds of times that we fail in leadership roles or life even.
Right.
So can you give me an example of maybe several times in your life that you failed? I mean, and that you learned something from it?
Sure. Rob, I think that failure often provides some of our best soil for growth, and our best
100%.
best ability to be reflective and like, man, that sucked. I messed that up so bad, right? There are a couple that I think of. The one that was one of my greatest, and I don't mean this in any way other than sort of sadnesses personally, but is that I really wanted to be president of the section. And I lost to a better candidate, I think. I mean, since that time, Walt has done a wonderful job. But I really thought I was ready, and I thought the section was ready for me. And apparently they weren't, which is okay. So I look back at that and I thought to myself, well, you know what, maybe there were other things that were on your plate that couldn't or shouldn't have been pushed aside for that larger role. On the other hand, another one that I can think of is even just like interpersonally. I mean, I think that there are times where I get so focused on things that I'm doing that are in my, like, you're going to laugh at this, but this is like my to-do list for the day or the week.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's, like, it's ridiculous, right? And I still do
And it's half over, the week's half over.
I know, it's Wednesday, right? So there are times where I think that I push some things aside that I shouldn't for my career, which is like, and again, I know that we all do that, but when you're sort of searching for what you want to do and how you want to be, use your talents and your gifts. So sometimes people who are really important in your life, so like my husband and sometimes my kids, I'd be traveling too much, or I'd be teaching too much, and I'll just say it, during COVID, I have been stressed to the nth degree, and my like sympathetic nervous system is so ramped up. It's like something happens, before I know it, I'm yelling at my husband, right? And he doesn't even deserve it. But I think that those are failures that are things that you have to step back from and say, okay, why are you so amped up? Why do you feel so overwhelmed? Or why did you feel like maybe you didn't really deserve or didn't win that election? And those are all things that if you use them for the good, or if you reflect on them and say, what am I to learn from this? Then you can really come out ahead in the long run. And just one more example is, at some point, and I talked to you about this quite a bit, actually, I was tagged to quote unquote be the next chair of our department. So my credentials line up, my abilities line up, my tenure and my full professor rank lines up. So this job opens up, and my coworker said, I'm kind of interested, but it's yours if you want it. So I did a lot of soul searching with my husband. I remember I talked to you and others that I know that are chairs, including Barb Sanders, others that have been chairs, Steve Tippett. And I'm like, do I really want to do this? And is this the best way to use my talents? And I came away with a solid no. And I didn't feel like that was a failure for the most part. But I felt like, it was a really well thought out plan.
Yeah.
I do get people saying to me, why haven't you ever run your own practice? Why haven't you ever chaired a department?
I
Have you
get
thought about that?
all the time. I
I
get
know.
the practice thing constantly.
I know. And it's like, because that's not my skill set. I'm not a business person. You can ask Mike. I'm not a business person. I love to work in a clinic and do a good job and treat patients, right? And then the chair thing, when our chair job opened up again, I was like, oh, you're going to apply now? Are you ready? And I had spoken with my daughter, with my son, with my husband, and they're all like, Mom, now's the time you need to work less, not more. Now's the time you need to say, I've been here, I've done a good job. And don't perceive that as a failure, perceive that as a decision. And if you look back and say it was a good decision, then it was a good decision, right? But
if you're not thinking about that, if that job opens there and you're not thinking about how exciting and how much you would love that, if you're like thinking, oh, I'm not even sure if I want to do this, and you've got to call people to ask them what they think. So you're obviously, it's not for you. It probably wouldn't go well. And you're right. If you love doing other things, it's as you know, when you become a chair, you get a little bit of an increase in pay, but it's not a huge increase. And the amount of stress and the load that, what it literally, and you know this from being in academics and working for different chairs, every problem becomes your problem.
It ends up in
literally every student's problem, every faculty member's problem comes to you, and now it's your problem. And you unless you like love that, if you love that, the stress of that and problem solving everybody else's problems. And some people do. And
Some
those
people love
people
it.
are,
I know.
yeah, yeah. And so it's great for them. But for like, you and I did the chair thing and it was stressful. And I'm not good at, the other thing is that which I've found now by our chair that we have now, because she's very good at this, she delegates stuff to other people.
Mhm.
But I feel like if I'm the chair, I need to do.
Right.
I felt like that's my job, but really I should have probably, it would have been a lot less stressful if I'd have just said, yeah, you do this, you do this, you do this. But I felt like I needed to do it.
Yeah. Interestingly, I'm currently, and I have been for probably 6 or 7 years, an associate chair, which I
Mhm.
like that role because there are certain things I do that are delegated to me, and I do enjoy it. But as our new chair has come on, he's a great guy, new to our system, new to Grand Valley, right? New to our curriculum. So there's things that have been greater roles for me as the associate chair. So it's kind of like this. It's not like a servant leader, but it's like a supporting leader, right? So
Yeah.
he'll ask me these questions because he doesn't really know, or vice versa. He's got a really great idea, but he'll just run it up my flagpole and like, what do you think? And so it's been really a neat transition. And every day I say I'm thankful that I didn't take his job
Yeah.
or that I
Yeah.
didn't try to do that job, right? Where I
Yeah.
can say I'm as associate chair, I can do my work, or I can inform the chair or help discuss tough things. But at the end, when it comes down to it, I get to give that back, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
It's not your deal.
your
It's someone
decision.
else's.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. That's good. That's good. What, what, what is this is a two-part question.
Okay.
So either again, um, it can be section related, it could be life related, it could be university related. What is number one first question, first part is, what is the best advice anyone has ever given you?
Okay.
And the number two would be, what is the worst advice you think anybody has ever given you?
Okay. So the best advice that anyone ever gave me comes from my dad. And my dad has been passed away for about 8 years now. And when I was trying to figure out this academia thing, I was told, get a master's and we'll hire you. So I get the master's and they say, oh, we can hire you, but really not quite. If you really want to stick around, you got to get a doctorate, right?
Yeah.
An earned doctorate, right? So anyways, so I'm like halfway, beside myself. And my dad, both my parents are PhD holders. So my dad was a biochemist. My mom
Wow.
is in social sciences. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go out and get a PhD and I'm going to do it in anatomy because that's what I love. I mean, I just love anatomy. Anatomy just is my thing. I love it because it relates to exercise and all this other stuff. Anyway,
Everything. Yeah.
so I talked to my dad and my dad looks at me and he says, Barb, you're XYZ years old. And at the time, I think I was in my 30s and have a family. He said, get the cheapest, dumbest, fastest doctorate you can get. It's a card key. It's a key that you have to swipe to get into the club. And after that, it's what you do that makes you a professional and what you do that will help you move through the academy and do those sorts of things. And so, not that my doctorate was cheap, dumb, or fast. It was kind of a combination, but I didn't get a doctorate in anatomy because we have an anatomy department and I would have had to leave our department to teach anatomy or to do it my discipline. So I looked into what our program needed, what fit my soul and what fit me. And I got a doctorate in educational leadership. And
Yep.
that was the piece that was my dad helped kind of groom me towards that, saying, you might not need to do this hard sciences doctorate, or you
Yeah.
might need to do the PhD. So I have an EDD, which some people might say, oh, that's a little lower or whatever. It has served me so well in
It's
terms of
perfect.
opportunities, all the things that I've done. And that was by far the best advice. So I'm looking at all these doctoral programs and it's, 6 years and, this honker dissertation and stuff. And I ended up in this really cool doctoral program that since that time, I think 5 of our Grand Valley faculty members have been through this Eastern Michigan University educational leadership doctorate. And it's just it was really good. It was good advice.
And how wise is your dad, who is a PhD that went through all that?
And he did it super traditionally, Rob. So he
Yeah.
went to undergrad and then did a PhD at Michigan. So he did like a 4-year degree at Michigan, did a postdoc at NIH. I mean, he was like super traditional Mr. Science, right? And he's like, Barb, for what you do and for as much as you love being a PT, you don't need to go and do this other thing. So that was the best advice ever.
That's really good advice. That's great advice. And he was right. He
He
was
was.
right.
He
100%
was. And
right.
it served me well, right? It served me well for all these years. Yeah. Let me think the worst advice. So one of my colleagues, and I love him to death. He is a wonderful, wonderful person and a wonderful teacher. Has won a distinguished teaching award at our university. He's very long, has longevity in our department. But he
Hmm.
once told me to really fight hard with the dean for what I wanted on something, and to really like toe the line on something. And it was probably true that some of us should have done it, but I wasn't the person to be carrying that torch. So when I went to the dean and said whatever it was that I wanted, and it was related to me, but it was also sort of as a torch bearer for a whole bunch of people, I got shot down in flames. And it was basically, it was a request for what we wanted as a department. And it was sort of related to me or my contract. And so he said to me, you need to go and say what you think and, blah, 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 fight for this. So I gave that a whack, and it was
Go.
a loss. I mean, it was like, and I think I lost a little political capital with the dean on that as well, because it seemed like I was trying to represent the whole crew, and then either he did some cross-referencing and people backed way off, and it doesn't even matter what the issue was,
Yeah.
but I will tell you it had to do with contracts, right? And so it was like, and then I think I lost a little political capital and a teeny bit of credibility, because I let an experienced colleague tell me to do something that we probably should have done collectively.
Yeah.
And
Instead
I
of just
felt
you.
like afterwards, I'm like, yeah, that was dumb. Well, tried it, didn't work.
Well, that happens though. It happens though, and
Live and learn.
luckily for you, I assume, is that dean still there?
He actually is. So
Oh, okay. A
leaving,
lot of
leaving in
times the
June,
deans don't
leaving
stay
in
very
June,
long.
which is good. No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
good
Oh,
for June. Well, there you go. No.
stop June.
Oh,
Mhm.
can we edit that?
I'm sure he's not going to watch this. I'll tell you that. But
Probably, probably not. Tell me, what are the qualities that you think, so when you think of leaders or mentors of yours, what are their best qualities that
okay.
you think make them good leaders or mentors? And
Mhm.
there's you don't have to tell me every one, because there's literally hundreds of
Sure.
qualities, but some of the top qualities you think those type of people share.
All right. I think the one that rises to the top is passion. So passion about what you do, how you approach the world. And I don't just mean like in your job or in your chosen field. I just mean like passion and like vibrance for living and for being a person. Yeah, and I mean that because we had a former leader, and he was a really good leader in a lot of ways, but he was just this really mellow guy. And it was like, and we have our leader at our church right now is that way, not super passionate, right? Like steady, but
Uh-huh.
not super passionate, right? And so to me, and again, you know me, I'm a total extrovert. I'm often very animated. Obviously, I talk
Uh-huh.
my hands, right?
Yeah, yeah.
To me, passion is really important. I think that you have to be passionate about what you do. And sometimes that's being passionate and reining it in. And sometimes it's being passionate and letting it show. So
Yeah.
that's a quality for me. But paired with that goes humility. And humility to me is that servant leader piece, or to be able to say that in this case, maybe I best lead by stepping back a little bit and letting others sort of lead the way a little bit, or that you don't always have to be in the front to be the best leader. So humility,
That,
both
that's hard
intellectual.
sometimes.
Oh, it is, especially when for me, I'm like a verbal person, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm super verbal and I'll say what I think. And I'm like, man, I got to pull my size 10 foot right out of my mouth and stick it somewhere because it was too much, right? It was just too much.
Or
So
just, or trying to push, like if you're like that excited about it,
yeah,
but you're maybe not, like you said, you're not the person to push it, and it needs to come from someone else, but you're just it's like you're like dying inside to just
right,
do it,
right,
but you're not the person to do it. It can be very hard to be
right,
humble and your humility and not
yeah.
uh, want to voice it and do it and take action.
Yeah, and with that, I think goes intellectual humility, right? Which is basically the thought that you just don't know it all, right? You might know a
Yeah.
lot, and you might have some wisdom that's developed throughout your life, but you just don't know it all, right? And that's really it's hard sometimes when you've been a PT for a long time because you feel like you kind of see the road, right? Like this is how you should do it, or this is how we know. But as evidence changes and as our practice environment changes, there's this intellectual humility that I think is really important to portray to students as well, right? They
Oh, yeah.
kind of, oh, these people, Rob knows so much, or Barb knows so much. And like you do, but it's not always right.
No,
It's not
no,
always the perfect
no.
way.
And they, that's one thing. That's a great point because students, they do think everything, and I think they're really shocked. A lot. I mean, I see in like teaching evaluation things where people, like students comment, and they'll comment. They really respect that you say you don't know. If they ask you a question you don't know, and you say you don't know, or you say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that. I'll have to talk to some people,
Right.
or I've never seen that. They really do appreciate the fact that you don't just give them some bullshit answer that
Exactly.
to answer it and get them off your back. You are honest enough and humble enough to say you don't know, or you're not an expert in that. Yeah,
Right.
they really appreciate that.
I do. I think so. Yeah. And even to say, or I need to do a lit search on that because I'm not sure where we are right now. Like,
Yeah,
oh, this year I thought this. I mean, but this year I have to kind of keep thinking. And then the third one, and this is just for life, is being a good listener. And I struggle with that sometimes because I
I
am
do
such a
too.
talker
I'm
and I am so
I'm
verbal,
not,
right?
I'm
So
not
it's
like
like,
a huge talker, but I'm not good at listening. Or I listen. Uh, well, you can ask my wife. I listen selectively, and I get told that a lot. And I do. I don't hear. I don't. I think my problem is my attention span.
mhm,
And I've noticed as I get older, I have less of attention span, and I seem to be like 3 steps ahead. And then, I get to the grocery store and I have no idea what the hell I was supposed to go
I
there to
know,
get.
I know,
She just told me.
I know.
God,
Isn't that funny? Or same thing, like my husband and I have a conversation and it's something that's not like super high on my list for right that moment. And I've got that big list of stuff I have to do. And then later he'll say, well, we talked about such and such. What'd you think? I'm like, blank, like this blank feeling,
yeah.
like, oh, I didn't listen very well. And so my husband points that out to me too. Yeah, you're not a very good listener sometimes.
I'm the same way.
I think it's
I'm the same way.
contextual too, though, because like there's some people that I really do listen to and I really listen carefully. There are other times where I'm in a faculty meeting, Rob, and I'm like this, like a Zoom faculty meeting, and I'm literally I got my computer muted. I'm typing, I'm looking stuff up on my iPad, and it's like I'm a horribly, I think I'm good, but I'm probably not. I'm a multitasker. So some of that means when you're multitasking, you're not engaging and you're not listening. And that's not a, even though you might think it's a good skill, it's not a great skill because it's something
Yeah,
that you're not doing a good job of the listening. And I think
yeah,
in leadership, it involves listening to, and I don't know a better word for this, but your people, your constituents, the whole of them, even the ones you don't want to hear.
I
And
know.
you know what I mean? Like right now, like our students yesterday came to me, they wanted to know if they could take their exam in a different format than I asked them to. And my first response was, hell no. My second response was, these are the reasons we're doing it this way. People have struggled with their internet connectivity, whatever. But I knew that I needed to listen to their thoughts and to their whole, they polled their class, but it was only 43 out of 60. I'm like, so that doesn't represent to me the whole class. I don't know the people who didn't answer. So I feel like that's part of it too, is trying to listen even to the things you don't want to hear, right? So it's like constructive or lack of constructive criticism and those sorts of things. Or if you're in a direction as a leader, you're going in this direction, you think it's the direction you're supposed to be going. You feel called, you feel like this is the way it's supposed to be going. But then you look outside and you say, well, Guy, there might be some people out there that really I'm not serving very well. And again, it's one of the reasons I never, ever will go into politics because there's no way you can keep everybody happy.
No, you can't. It's the
As
way
a
with,
leader,
way
you
with education too. I mean, you can't every student. You can't make every student happy. There's no way.
but at least you can receive and listen to their concerns or their complaints or their constructive or their not so constructive feedback and try to see if you can sift it, right, and say, okay, this is what I'm coming away with. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got to take it in, try to assimilate it, and do what's best for, I guess, the group really.
I think we all suffer from confirmation bias though, right? Because if you hear something that supports what you're doing as a leader or as a person or as a teacher, then it's like, oh, I'm going to do more of that, right? But you
Yeah,
haven't heard that other group that might be saying, we don't even feel empowered to say what we think because you're so strong on this end.
exactly. And we're all, I think we're all guilty of that. If you say you're not, you're not, you're not paying attention to reality.
Right. And
I
even
think
in
we
the
do.
research evidence,
Yeah.
and we all succumb to confirmation bias. News media, it's like you listen to what you like, or you listen to what confirms what you think.
And you agree with what people that agree with you, and you
Exactly.
disagree with others. Yeah. It's with life now. It's not just like university and research. It's everything.
For sure.
Yeah. No, that's great. Tell me what how important trust as a leader or a mentor is I think huge.
I do too.
And so why is that? And explain why you think trust and character is so important.
So to me, with trust comes the word veracity, or believing that in truth, right? So trust and truth kind of go together, that you tell the truth and that you have veracity as a value, that you believe in veracity or realness and honesty. But trust to me is if I can't trust somebody, I'm not gonna give them things that I value, whether it's skill or knowledge or advice or those sorts of things. On the other hand, if that person doesn't trust me as a mentor to keep their maybe some of their secrets secret, or some of their insecurities, kind of on the down low a little bit, because that's between the two of us, or between myself and a mentor relationship, or me and a mentee and a mentor-mentee relationship. It's been funny because in the last several years, I've often been much more thoughtful about asking someone, may I state this thought, even not attributed to you, or may I talk to the chair? So as my role as associate chair, may I talk to the chair about your thoughts on this? And if you want me to keep it anonymous, I can keep it anonymous. But I feel like there's this trust is something that if you break it, it's super hard to rebuild.
Yes, it's really hard.
You trash someone's trust, it's super hard to rebuild. And even with things like listening, or even if people can't trust you to listen, or if people can't trust you to have an honest conversation or an open conversation, then those people, then your veracity is then doubtful, right? Or your truth telling is doubtful. And I think that's really, really important. I'm serving as a mentor to one of our junior faculty, who's not so junior anymore because she's been on board for 6 years, but she's our most recent hire. Came out of the clinic, came out of sort of a non-academic background. And sometimes she'll come to me with questions. She's like, this might be a really dumb question. I'm like, no dumb questions. But same thing. I mean, and then she's had some real big struggles lately. And I would say to her, do you want me to share this with anyone, or do you want it between the two of us? And sometimes she'll come right out and she'll say, I really want you to do it because I don't have the emotional energy to share it with everybody right now, but I want everybody to kind of know, so I can do that. She trusts me to do that, which I think is a blessing. On the other hand, there are times where I'll vent to her. So now it's a mentor-mentor relationship. Now it's not a mentor-mentee relationship. It's like we're venting to each other. I'm like, I'm just so burned out. I can't even think straight. What do I do? And she's like, oh, so it's funny though, I think, how in a trusting relationship that the mentor and the mentee kind of get like this, right? Like all of a sudden you're mentoring each other, and you might feel like it's a junior senior relationship, but I take it in a trusting, good relationship like that, where there's truth telling, that I can trust even my students sometimes to help me to learn about me.
Yeah, yes, that's another good important point to make with students. I think you have to be able to trust the students, and I think the students have to know they can trust you. And apparently you're kind of the same way. I have students come talk to me all the time about all kinds of stuff that sometimes I wish they didn't trust me about. They want to talk to you about, because it does sometimes being trustful or trustworthy sometimes puts a burden on you, because now they come tell you things that you have to make a decision on to either report it or not report it. And then
right.
But yes, I think you're right. I almost always say, okay, now you've thrown that on me, and I tell them I appreciate. I mean, you don't have any idea how much I appreciate that you trust me enough to come talk to me about this. But I have to do something with this information you told me.
Yes. Yes.
Do you want me to do it anonymously? Are you okay if I give your name? That kind of stuff.
Right, right.
Uh,
Because in the university setting, Rob, as you very well know, I mean, we've got Title IX, things that we have to do. In our university, we have these things called care reports. And if somebody discloses something to you that gives you pause, you have to do a care report.
yep.
And I will say that to the student. I said, again, same thing like you say, I'm really grateful that you trust me to talk about this. And I'm hopeful that I can be at least a good sounding
Oh,
board.
yeah.
But this does put me in the place now where, because I care for you, I would like to make sure that you're well cared for, and we have to do some of these things. So sometimes that gets a little sticky too, but
It
but
does, but they usually, what I've found is they're coming to you for help. They're coming to you to listen and see if you can help
Mhm,
resolve whatever
mhm,
the conflict is, and they're
mhm.
in most instances they're agreeable to whatever
Mhm.
method to try to resolve it, because they're coming to you for help,
Right,
and
right,
trust you. So they're not usually, no, I don't want anybody to know, and you can't tell anybody. It's never usually that
it
bad.
is, and it's usually, and they're coming to you for help and advice, right? For some reason, they think that maybe you've got some idea that might be helpful to advise them in what to do. So yeah, but you're right about the whole trust thing. If you don't trust somebody for whatever reason, it's really hard to see that person in the same lens, right? To be able to see that person, man, that person just doesn't feel, and it takes a really long time to earn that back in my world, right?
If you ever earn it back.
If you
There,
ever do.
there, I've had most of I've only really had one really what I would consider a horrible boss
Mhm,
that I didn't trust. But the time that that person was there, it was just when you can't trust the person above you,
mhm.
it's miserable.
Yep, yep.
I mean, it's totally miserable. I mean, sometimes you're just like, I don't care anymore. I want to, I've never been that way, but then I had this boss that was just horrible.
Mhm,
And it was just like, it wasn't, I wasn't myself. I wasn't my normal self
mhm.
because of this person. And I shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't let, so another failure. I mean, I've got all kinds of failures I could tell you about me, but so like this time I have this person that's above me. I really failed myself because I let that affect me
Right, right.
way more than, in retrospect than I should have.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but it's very hard if you don't trust the person above you. They're making decisions,
Sure.
against your input.
Or
Uh,
against the grain of the whole crew, for example, it's like,
yeah,
wait, what's going on?
yeah. Boy,
Mhm.
yeah, that's tough. That's tough. So how do you handle in a leadership, when you're in a leadership role, how do you handle um, negativity, or you know, when someone disagrees totally with you or the group?
Mhm,
Um, and a second part of that is, so if, let's say it is your boss, can
mhm,
you still, follow that direction if
mhm.
you disagree totally with, that direction or vision?
So to the first part, with negativity, or like something that doesn't agree, like there's a whatever. Let's say I express an opinion and I get a negative feedback on that opinion or whatever. I first try really hard not to internalize that, because it's not sometimes necessarily you as a person. It might be the way you've constructed an idea. Or I'll just give you an example. So I'm the curriculum chair on our university here at our program. And so there's a lot of things that I believe very strongly in our curriculum. A, we turn out really great graduates. B, they pass their boards. C, they go out and really do good things for the most part. I mean, when you're graduating 60 a year, of course, you're going to have some low flyers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But by and large, I think our curriculum does what it's intended to do, right? So then somebody will say, well, I want to do this, or I want to do that, or we need to revise this, or we need to revise that. And I know that I have a little bit of a tendency to dig my heels in a little bit, because I feel like, that might be something that's really working, or it feels like it's working. So then somebody will give me, well, you're not really ready to consider that, or, maybe you should consider that more broadly. So I try not to take it personally, first of all. And then second of all, I'm like, okay, open up your mind a little bit, back off and see if you can figure things out. And then see if there's some positive in that quote unquote feeling of negativity, right? Where it's like, oh, they don't really care about what my thoughts are. They don't really care about the curriculum committee's thoughts or whatever. So then we have to kind of back off and see if I can manage that feeling, or that I don't know. And sometimes I think me, you, whoever, we perceive things negatively when they're meant to be like thoughts of like, let's just look at this. And then,
Yes.
well, why? It's working. It's doing okay. So it's almost like a reaction, like a gut reaction, like almost a response, right?
And the things you're talking about, like, so like the curriculum,
Mhm.
you're constantly changing and
Mhm.
refining the curriculum to try to, you're trying to make it perfect.
Mhm.
Your goal is to have the perfect curriculum, whatever that is.
Mhm.
And you feel like you're getting there. And then someone says, well, there's a new model of curriculum. We need to
Right, right,
totally change everything. And you're just
right,
like, oh shit, this is just finally working good now.
right.
Why are we going to change it?
Right, or our curriculum assessment committee, every year we look at data, we look at outcomes, we look at all this stuff, and we tweak this and we tweak that, and we say, oh, we need more of this and less of that. And we think we're kind of on it, right? So when somebody says, well, what about this? Maybe we should change this chunk. I'm like, I don't know. So I think that some of it's my own reaction
Yeah,
sometimes, and I
I bet it is. I
construct
bet
things
it is.
like,
'Cause you're so invested in it. Yeah,
wait,
yeah.
we got it already, kind of. But you're right, curriculum lives and breathes and it's never static. But and then the other thing is to me, if it goes against my grain, but it's something that the group feels, it's not about me. It's not about my curriculum or the curriculum. It's about us, all of us. And if it's not serving everybody, we got to figure that out. But if it's against something for me ethically or morally, is when I can't follow along.
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah.
just give you an example. I am so tired of the politics with COVID that I could just about spit.
Uh-huh.
Because ethically for me, it's not about if you're a Republican or a Democrat, or if you believe in the virus or you don't
Uh,
believe in the virus. It's about public health and it's about our whole community, our whole world, like big community, right? So when people say students, people I know, family members, I'm not going to get the vaccine because I don't think I need it. And I felt like saying, there's no I in team, there's no I in the world. It's all of us, right? And it just gets me so cranky. So if somebody were to say to me, oh, you shouldn't get the vaccine, which by the way, I'm already vaccinated, but you shouldn't because of these reasons. If ethically and morally that doesn't jive with what I believe, I can't do it. I can't say, yep, go ahead. Or I
yeah.
can endorse that. I can't
Yeah.
say, yep, that's your choice because I believe XYZ, right? So sometimes I think I'm a little too, I don't know, I'm a little too directed in some of my feedback to people when I'm saying, why wouldn't you? It's a public health issue. What about others around you? If it might help another person, wouldn't that be a good enough reason?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, well, I'm not even going to jump in, but I'm not going to, there's all kinds of, I agree with you. There's all kinds of things I can tell you about this whole virus thing that
Mhm.
angry and that frustrate me. And
Yep, same here. Sorry, it's
it's a
probably
whole,
not a great
it's a
topic.
whole 3 hour,
It is.
3 hour talk on its own.
Mhm.
I do want to comment on something that you mentioned about, people, um, you have to try to let things go when if people are I don't think you said attacking, but I'm thinking of
Yeah, when it's negative or it feels negative. Yeah.
yeah. I had a former dean of mine, great dean, probably my favorite dean that I had, and was here the majority for the first probably almost 20 years of my. He actually stayed a really long time,
Mhm.
and he was really big into leadership. And
Mhm.
I was talking to him one time about some negative stuff, and he gave me the advice um, that probably the best advice that he ever gave me was when you get negative feedback to not take it personal,
Mhm.
because you always take it personal. And he said it doesn't matter what someone's
Mhm.
doing, saying to you negative.
Mhm.
99% of the time, it's not personal. It's just they have an opinion.
Mhm.
They're voicing their opinion. They have an agenda. They're voicing their agenda. You
Mhm.
just happen to be the person in the way or in the line
Mhm.
of fire. But he said more than likely they're not attacking you, even though you feel like you're getting attacked personally. It's not you they're attacking. It's just like you with the curriculum thing. They weren't attacking you. They were negative about the curriculum, or they thought the curriculum needed change. It has nothing really to do with you, although
Mhm.
you internalize it as yours because you're the chair.
Mhm.
So if someone asks questions about it, you feel like they're attacking you, but really they're not. And he gave me several examples of, like, when he was younger, that
Mhm.
he said someone actually, like, in the school newspaper, wrote something really negative about him, and he was mad. He was going to go to, like, the president to complain or whatever. And he said he talked to a mentor of his, and the person said, just let it go. It's not, it's not that they're not attacking you.
Mhm.
They're attacking, this. And he said, until I really sat back and thought about it, he said, I felt like I was the one being attacked. And he said, and to be honest, he said, I even argued with that mentor of mine
Mhm.
for like weeks about it, till it finally, dawned on me that maybe he's right. It's not me they're attacking.
Mhm.
And I need to just let it go. So yeah, good. That's really good advice, I think.
Yeah, I think that is very good advice. And I think that that's really important, even for your own self-care, right? Because if
Mhm.
you ruminate on something and you just internalize it and you're kind of pissed off about it, then
Yeah.
it becomes like way front and center in your life, right? And then before you know it, it's like leading the show, and you're listening, and your veracity and all the other good things we talked about, that gets like put on the back burner because you're so anxious about something
Yeah, yes, you're
that
stressed
you can't
out
let
about
it
it.
go.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
No, yeah, it can totally run your day for sure.
Mhm.
What have you ever had, and you don't have to give names
Mhm.
uh, or exact details, but have you ever, because of a leadership role or because of mentorship or something that happened, have you ever, do you feel like you've ever like lost a good relationship because of something that happened while you were in a leadership role?
Gosh, I'm trying to think on that one. That's a good question. Yeah.
I tell this example of with me, where I had someone who I thought I was being a good leader with, and gave them my honest opinion
Mhm.
about something they were doing and how they were going about doing it.
Mhm.
And in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have been as harsh as I was,
Mhm.
providing feedback and what I thought was honest opinion. Trying
Mhm.
to push that person to do better, and it kind of backfired.
Mhm.
And now I don't have that. I didn't totally dissolve it, but it really changed it
Mhm.
uh, a lot. And
Yeah.
and I felt, and I still feel like I was doing what I needed to do, but I didn't read that person probably
Mhm.
good enough, or I thought they were a little more resilient than
Mhm.
they were when I gave my strong opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't think of an exact example, but I will say that in the role of a leader, wherever you are, whether it's in your family, your work, your students, whatever, that I think that you do have to take the receiver into, if you're giving feedback, the receiver into account. And for example, feedback that I could give to you, because I know you as I know you, and I know that you're pretty resilient and tough. You probably just say, "Oh, I don't give a shit what she says anyway." She says, if you don't believe it, you're not going to worry about it, right?
Yeah.
But if I were to do that the same feedback to a different person, it might like break them, kind of, not
Yeah.
like literally, but like break their opinion of themselves. And so I think that as leaders, we temper our feedback as we give it to people and think about who the receiver is. But there are times where I've made some big judgment calls that are not great on that either. Like I've given some strong feedback to someone and said, they ask me, so I give them my opinion, like all barrels loaded, right?
Yeah.
And then later it's just like, I thought, oh man, that didn't go well, because that person either was distant from me or didn't ask again for something similar to that, because I came at it, like just ready to unload, ready for bear, right? And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that sometimes that's part of it, is kind of reading your audience or reading who the person might be. And I do
But you
think
don't
that,
you don't always get the person right, though, or you think that
no.
sometimes you think people are, like I said, more resilient or able to handle
Mhm.
uh, a stronger feedback than they are. And so that was kind of like what you're saying is the instance where I was at, where they just didn't accept it,
Mhm.
or where they were so strong in their opinion.
Their thoughts, yeah.
Yeah, that it just
Didn't
didn't.
go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there for sure. I couldn't think of an exact example, but your example was helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. So what? Let me see here. You have class.
I don't today. Last
Oh, you
last
don't?
So I'm good. I'm
Oh,
good.
we'll go a couple more. I don't want to keep you like, 2 hours or anything, but
That's okay.
believe it or not, we've almost been an hour already.
I know.
Is that
Wow.
incredible? It just seems like I just got on
It
with
was
you. And we're
fast. I know.
already an hour into it. Um, let's see. Let me just get you a couple more here. Um,
Throw me a
oh,
softball.
this is, oh, yeah, I don't know if none of these are really softballs, are they? If you could go back and make any change in your life or career, would you do anything differently?
Okay, let me think for a second. Yes. So this is the example. At one point in my career, I got the chance to travel with our dean, who was a physical therapist. She was our former chair. She became the dean, and she offered me the opportunity to go to China to do a study with she and some undergraduates and another practitioner that was basically went for 3 weeks. And we took undergrads that was part of a class for them, and it was kind of trying to look at Western medicine, the combination at this place in Beijing called the China Japan um, the China Japan. Oh gosh, I can't remember the anyways, but it was a hospital that tried to combine Western and Eastern medicine.
Uh-huh.
It was kind of like the chance of a lifetime, right? And so I talked to my husband, and he says, "Yeah, you can do it." Anyways, it lined up completely when my daughter graduated from high school. So I missed her
Oh,
last soccer game. I missed baccalaureate. I missed the awards ceremony. I missed a whole bunch of stuff. I didn't miss graduation, but I missed a lot of things. And looking back on that, and my daughter, who's now 31 years old, still reminds me of that, not meanly or negatively,
yeah, yeah.
but it was a decision that I made because I wanted to do it really badly. And I thought it was really good for my career. And it was because it was also I was going to talk to some of the people prior to the Beijing Olympics and try to see what we could do in terms of, maybe the sports section, maybe other
Uh-huh.
people, maybe my university. And it looked like a really great opportunity. Well, that never morphed into anything, but the rest of it was great. And I learned a ton about myself and about how being a 5'10" white skinned person with curly frizzy blonde hair in Beijing was a real anomaly. But anyway, um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but I missed those things, and I missed those 3 weeks. I should have waited until the next year. She would have taken me the next year.
Yeah.
I didn't, because I wanted to go so badly. And so I feel like that was something that I would have done a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And then, the only other thing I can think of is I had the chance to manage or run a PT department early in my career, and I really shied away from that because I didn't think I was management material. But I think I might have been leadership material, but I could have gotten help with the management piece of it. So
Uh-huh.
I pulled back. I was offered the job, and I had people saying, "Oh, we want you to be the manager. You'd be really good at this." And I said, I just don't think I'm ready. And I kind of wish I had done it just to like
Yeah.
dip my toe in the
See?
water.
Yeah, just to see.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I'm pretty sure this, when I took that chair position, I'm pretty sure if I wouldn't have taken it, I would have wondered for the rest of my life whether
Right,
I could have
right.
done it or not, or whether it was the right thing to do.
Mhm,
I wasn't like totally against it. I mean, I questioned it kind of like you did,
mhm,
but I actually thought that I would be uh, decent at it.
mhm.
What I found out was really, I mean, I may have been decent at best, probably. I just wasn't a great chair for the reasons that, we talked about.
Yeah, yeah.
But now I know.
Right, right.
So I don't have that question in my head, So if someone says, "Do you want to be a chair again?" I pretty much know I don't want. I mean, I don't know that I would never do it, but this situation would have to be really kind of perfect. It
Well,
couldn't be like what
you know,
happened
it-
before.
it's super interesting because there was actually a chair position that was opening up in a developing program in a place that shall remain unnamed and a university that shall remain unnamed. But I thought about it for a hot second
Yeah.
because I thought maybe that's something I should do before I stop doing this work, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I should try it.
Yeah.
So of course, I talked to my community of people. I talked to the people in that community about what do you know about this job? What does it look like? I had 3 people call me and say, This is a job for you. You might want to do this one, right?" Good friends. And I'm like, "Nah, I'll think about it." But you know who I always talk to, and this is hilarious, is my daughter. So my
Uh-huh.
daughter is wise beyond her years. She's an MD. She's a parent now. She and her husband have this really high profile but really cool life. And I said to her, "What do you think about this?" She goes, "Mom, if you were going to do it, why wouldn't you have done it in your own institution?" Why will you go somewhere and work your butt off to try
Yeah.
to start a program with all the requirements for accreditation, all this other stuff? And anyways, I got as close to even putting my application in, and then I thought, I don't
She's
think I'll be
right.
able to do this. It isn't right, right? But there's still this niggling little thing on my shoulder that says,
Yeah.
why weren't you ever a chair? Why won't you be one?
Yeah.
And it's because I look back at those decisions I have made, and I still look back at them and I say, that was the right decision.
Yeah.
I did. I'm glad I didn't do X, or this is the right decision, or I learned from not doing X that I can do better at Y potentially.
Yeah. You can still wonder. I mean, you can still,
Yeah, I
there's a
know.
lot of little of that, why didn't
It's
I
a
do
little
it?
niggling
Did I
thought.
ever do it? Or, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's the devil on one side and yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So tell me if, has there been anything in the last 5 years or so? Do you have any new beliefs or new habit uh, that has been very beneficial?
So yes, actually, I will say that again. I say I'm verbal, I'm social, I'm all that stuff. But some of that translates into like I'm not hyperactive, but I'm like on the go all the time, right? It's like if I'm not doing this, I'm doing that. I'm doing this, I'm doing three things at once. So in the last 5 years, I have picked up both a meditation and a yoga journey. And so I was really proud of myself when I did a 30-day yoga challenge and I was on the mat every day for 30 days, which is unreal for me because sometimes I can't find 5 minutes to like go
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
bathroom in my day, much less,
Yep.
find 30 to 45 minutes to do yoga. So that was January. January, 30 days on the mat or 31 days on the mat. I was great, right? February, 4 days total, right? It's like this
No.
rebound thing, right? So it's like personal care. So meditation, like trying to slow my own roll, right? Slow my own brain and slow my thinking sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, and the meditation and yoga kind of go together for me. And part of that has to do, I don't know if I told you this or not, but I had hip arthroscopy in November.
No, no, you didn't. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, for FAI and labral tear and anyway, which I told my surgeon, I'm like, aren't I too old for this? Maybe I should. Are you sure you're supposed? He's like, Barb, can we let me be the surgeon, please?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, got it, got it. But anyways, and it's doing great, but I can't walk as much and as aggressively as I normally did. I would probably walk anywhere between 2 and 5 miles a day just to be out, weight bearing, bone health, all that good stuff. And my hip just didn't tolerate it very well prior to surgery. And I'm just getting back into the 2 mile range now, which isn't a lot. I haven't been a runner for years, but anyway, so yoga kind of answered some of that flexibility, core strength, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of part of this whole yoga meditation thing that I've been
That's
trying
good.
to.
So were you doing that? Were you just doing the yoga at home or were you going to
Yeah,
actual
pretty
classes?
much. Especially, I did have a yoga studio that I was going to prior to COVID,
Mhm.
but I don't go there obviously now. So I do it online mostly with these online yoga things.
Yeah.
And the meditation for the longest time, I had the oh shoot, one of those meditation apps that you had to do every day. And then it cost money, so I put that one away, and I did more meditation sort of through yoga and some other things. But yeah,
Yeah.
trying to like slow my own roll a little bit, and try
Yeah.
to chill out a little bit. So
Julie started doing yoga probably a
Mhm,
year, maybe a year ago,
mhm,
year and a half ago, and she just loves it. I mean, she goes like, she shouldn't go every day, but every day that she's free,
mhm,
and
mhm.
usually she goes both days on the weekends.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
it. So she really likes it.
So and as you age as a female, it's good weight bearing, it's good flexibility, it's core strength. You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
lots of good balance. I mean, it's good stuff. So
Yeah,
I used to think, oh, that's too slow for me, or I need hot yoga or really
yeah,
aggressive vinyasa or whatever. It's like, you know, you can do what's good for your body at this point. So
yeah. Well, and I think she likes it because it is really hard. And I guess
mhm,
I don't think I've ever been to a yoga class, but she said different instructors do it at different levels.
mhm, mhm.
And she's been doing it for a year and a half and she's still not, says she's not great at it, and she's so she's got this almost like a goal, to
Sure.
continue to improve. And she talks like she's so far away from being great at it,
Mhm.
she just needs to keep going,
It's a
and
good challenge. It's a
yeah,
good
sees
challenge.
improvements, every little bit. And
Yeah,
so yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
good for her, good for her,
Awesome.
good for you. All right, one last question.
Mhm,
So I'll keep you on here all day. How so when you're gone,
mhm.
hopefully not anytime soon. I want to live to be like 100. I tell everybody I'm going to be 100 plus at least. I saw. Did you see? Did you see? I saw in the news just this week. The oldest person in the United States just died. It was a little, yeah, she was like 100. It was a little old lady. It was like 100, either 114 or 116 years old.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Wow.
So yeah, I'm hoping to be 100 plus. I don't know about 114, 116.
Yeah.
And I want to have my mind. I don't want to be, 114 and soiling myself in a nursing home. I want to be, 100 plus, okay,
Right.
with it. But when you're gone, what do you want people to say about you, or how do you want to be remembered?
Let's see. I want to be remembered as somebody who had a big heart and who cared for people of all walks of life in the roles that she had or plays. Family, friends, church family, coworkers, colleagues, who had a big heart and who was a caring individual. I also want to be remembered for somebody as somebody who really believed in the work that I do, which is physical therapy, which is movement, which is health and wellness, and which is education. So for my world, those have really dovetailed, that believed in the education of others and had something to offer to others potentially, but was humble enough to know when she didn't know it all. But that might not come out in my obituary. We'll see. You never know.
I'm sure it will.
I don't know. Yeah, but they had something to give, was had a big heart, had something to give, and tried to give it to the best of her ability, and was thoughtful of others.
That's great. That's beautiful. And that's exactly how I would think of you. Yeah, that's
Wow, thank you.
really good.
Yeah. I don't think I'm the smartest person. I don't think I'm the wisest person. I don't think that I've had, success that's been all my own by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh gosh, yeah. Again, that's a whole nother conversation, isn't it?
It is. Which, by the way, I loved your acceptance speech. I mean, it was
oh, thank you.
It was really poignant, and I really liked it. It was really cool.
Thank you very much. That's very kind.
That was awesome. Yep.
Well, all right, I'm gonna let you go so you can get back to work. We've been on for
an
hour and 10 minutes, and I was expecting it to be about an hour because I thought you had class, but
that's all good.
I really appreciate you doing this with me and for me.
If you ever decide to do your book, and if you want to do like a qualitative approach to, because I've done some qualitative research too, like a qualitative approach to synthesis of leadership discussions, I'm in if you want help.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of this is qualitative, right? It's not like about scores. It's not like your scores and your teaching evals. It's about how you're perceived and how you perceive the world. And I don't know, it could be kind of fun. And for me, leadership always has a sports background, right? So it's always got this like, Coach K background, or I know some people hate this, but Urban Meyer. I mean, like, who are the leaders out there and they lead in sports? And that's always been a formative part of my leadership thinking too.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of sports leadership, like Coach, got several books of his. John Wooden, there's like all kinds of books about John Wooden that I've read. And yeah. No, let's keep in touch about that. Or maybe we should do something just even in addition, not necessarily what I'm doing, looking at it, but actually do something, interdisciplinary or inter-university wise on leadership of sports therapists.
For sure.
Yeah. No, let's keep in touch and talk about it.
All right. Sounds good, Rob. Have a good day.
You so much. You too. Okay. All right. See ya.